Hello, Demir. Okay, we are live. Hi, Scott.
Hello.
Hi,
How's it going,
Tim.
Kathy?
Hey, Kathy,
It's
how are
going
you?
really good. It's going great. Welcome
Awesome.
to Office Hours for May 12th,
Hey,
2020.
guys. Absolutely.
We're going to start at about 9:05, everyone. So just pop on in, and there's a chat off to the right. Let us know where you're coming in from, and we will get started in a few minutes. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk a lot about Wordfence and blocking malicious traffic. And this is very timely. Last week, we saw an uptick in attacks towards WordPress. On our blog, we wrote about 1 million sites that were under attack. And this morning, we took a look at some more fun attacks coming at WordPress. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. I'm going off script, you guys, just a little bit. You take a look at the total attacks blocked on the Wordfence network, you see a few peaks happening, and it looks like we've got some malicious traffic hitting WordPress as we speak. So it's very timely that we're here to talk about how to block those attacks against your WordPress site. So we will get started in just a minute.
Oh, wow. Got
How's
a lot
the
of people.
A lot of people coming in. Great. I'm going to stop the share so everybody can see our beautiful faces.
Okay. Got somebody from Bosnia, from Scotland, from London. Welcome.
Oh, great. Welcome. Thank you guys for joining us. We hope to
Yeah.
provide you tons of information to help you keep your sites safe. Excellent. How's the weather in Tennessee, Tim?
It is, well, it's like in Tennessee, we always say that like it's the only state where you can kind of like, or only place actually in Earth that you get like all 4 seasons in one week. So it has been really, really warm in the afternoon. So like roll the car windows down, pop the sunroof open and drive with the radio turned up. And today it is freaking cold. So can't figure it out. Yeah, it's very cold this morning on the way to the gym.
Yikes.
It was
How about
like
you,
sunny.
Scott?
It was like sunny and 70 a couple days ago, and then by the time the sun started going down, it was snowing. So, yeah, it's pretty much what
Hey,
Tim's
Jack.
going through over there.
Welcome, Jack from Minnesota. Are you close to Minneapolis, Jack? Because we were up there last year, or the year before. Did we meet you at WordCamp?
WordCamp in Minneapolis.
Oh, look, somebody from
Last year?
Memphis. Somebody's from Memphis too.
Nice.
Memphis is my old stomping grounds. I went to
And
Memphis
Chloe.
State when
Hi,
it was
Chloe.
Memphis State. Hey, Chloe. This is probably the one time you'll see Chloe say something like, I'm in Florida right now, because normally she's in some weird exotic place and trying to like, tell us where, she's somewhere. So we say 65 miles from Minneapolis. Cool. Yeah, it was really nice up there. I really enjoyed. Didn't you go up there with us, Scott? Did you go to Minneapolis last year?
Minneapolis.
Yep.
Yeah, that was fun.
It's a good town.
Yeah.
It was.
That was the one that was right near the Minnesota football stadium. I remember.
Yep. And they
Right.
had the state fair going on. I didn't go
was a
last
nice
year,
venue.
but the year
Yeah.
before, went to the state fair. It was a lot of fun. Had a good time. All kinds of food, all of it on a stick. That's all I remember.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing that. Yeah. Wish I had went.
Why didn't we eat it? No kidding, man. Sorry.
It says my internet
was
is
a lot of
unstable,
fun.
but I see Tim kind of choppy. So
It said my
Doing my
internet was
Max Headroom
unstable too,
impersonation.
and we just upgraded.
Yeah.
I just got my internet upgraded to a gigabyte, and it's like
Sorry.
still unstable. I think I'm gonna have to Ethernet it.
Are you on wireless?
I'm on wireless right now.
He's famous for food on a stick. There is all kinds of stuff on a stick, man. I got pictures of like, I just started taking pictures of everything that was on a stick, you know.
Deep fried everything, I'm guessing you could get there.
Yeah, pretty much, but it was all on a stick. It had to be on a stick. That was the rule.
All right. You guys want to get started?
Do
Is
you
it
want to get started?
time?
It's totally
I
time.
always
What?
want to get started.
I got
It's
12:07. Let's do it.
Okay. We've how many tabs
No,
open? Jeez.
I've wait a minute. Let me just answer C Dog. Did not see any bats on a stick at any point during the Minneapolis State Fair. Nothing at all.
Thankfully. Thankfully.
No, thankfully. Yeah. Or this would be a very different video right now. Totally. All right, let's get cranking. What do you say, Kathy?
Let's get cranky. Yeah, I think so. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us. We're clocking in for Wordfence office hours. Okay, so while we're doing this, like we just talked about, we love coming to WordCamps and seeing everyone who uses Wordfence. And guess what? Nobody's traveling. There are no WordCamps, at least none in real life. We have some virtual ones, and we thought, why not do our own virtual thing? So we also wanted to make this an educational and useful experience for all of you so that you can get more out of Wordfence and understand the attacks that are coming at Wordfence or at WordPress sites around the world. So this is obviously a public forum here on YouTube. We have questions in the chat. Any questions you have, contextual or otherwise, you know, if it's something that we're going over, great. If it's something we're not going over and you just want us to address it at the end, we will do that. If something is specific to your site, please do not put that in chat. Obviously, this is public. If you have a specific question, feedback@wordfence.com. Add Wordfence office hours in the subject line of that email. So just a little bit about all of us. I am Kathy Zant. I am Director of Marketing here at Wordfence. I've been using WordPress since the beginning, tore apart core and put it back together in different ways a couple of times. Way back in the day, I was a developer for many years. Started at Wordfence cleaning hack sites. That was fun. I did it because it was fun as a part-time little, I just want to see what the hackers are up to type of thing. And that's the garbage truck going by. That was going to happen as soon as we started. I have gone through a number of different roles here and kind of landed in marketing and have had a lot of fun, especially with the WordCamp side of things, getting to know people in the community. Tim, how did you get started with Wordfence and WordPress?
With WordPress, started at HGTV when we migrated all our blogs off of movable type, which sucks, to WordPress, which is much easier. And then kind of got acquainted with Wordfence when we had a blog that was hacked, and we used Wordfence to actually clean our own site. So yes, I was a customer before I actually started working at Wordfence. I've been with Wordfence for about 5 years now. I'm employee number 3. There's your trivia question for the day. And I took the job under the condition that I could get my own short email address, which is like Tim at, as opposed to like Tim dot blah, 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 blah. And I also, because I got to create my own job title, I did not go for the Velociraptor. That was my first choice. So I was probably wise about that. But absolutely love it. It's a great company to work for. A lot of fun. Love meeting people. Do a lot of WordCamps every year when we're doing WordCamps, and hope to see you guys out at some of the camps that we go to. Scott, why don't you tell us about yourself?
WordPress, I started using before college some time ago. I always say 5 years, but I think it's been more than that. Time flies, you lose track real quick. But in college, I started to get a little more serious with WordPress and web design, started creating some sites for some local businesses. And that's when I became a little more serious about security. And 2 years ago, I started working alongside Tim in support with Wordfence, and I've loved every minute of it. Excited to get back out to the WordCamps and see everybody.
Yep.
Definitely. I think we're all ready for life to return to some kind of new normal. Okay, so if you are just getting started with Wordfence, we did an office hours last week. I will throw a link out somewhere so you can take a look at that at your leisure. That one goes through sort of the setup and configuration of the Wordfence firewall. Scott does an awesome overview of Wordfence Login Security. And we also look at Wordfence Central, which is a dashboard that allows you to manage all of your security settings for all of your sites and see all of your security events all in one place. It makes managing security for a number of sites easy, and it is free. So that video we will throw out so you can find it. And a reminder to subscribe to our blog. Now, if you have not been paying attention to WordPress security in the last few months, or maybe even the last couple of weeks, our blog has been on fire. Chloe Chamberlain, who's here watching, one of our threat analysts, has been researching a lot of vulnerabilities in plugins and publishing a lot of research. So just to highlight some of the stories over the last week, Ram Gall, one of our other threat researchers, found that there were 1 million sites under attack last week, and he's presently, and this is something you wouldn't hear anywhere else, so you get this like inside scoop here watching Office Hours, that screenshot I showed earlier of the Wordfence dashboard showed you that attacks seem to be ramping up, and RAM is looking at those increased attacks and trying to find those patterns as well. And we may have a blog post about that as an update coming very soon. So WordPress is under attack all the time. Does this mean you shouldn't use WordPress? I don't think so. I think that the reason why WordPress is being used is because it's so useful and so easy to use, but obviously it becomes then a big target the more people who are using it, and it's powering over 1/3 of the web right now. So something to be aware of. Chloe published research yesterday about the Page Builder by Site Origin plugin that's installed on 1 million sites and had a vulnerability that Chloe found and helped that plugin developer patch it. She was also the one making sure that our firewall is blocking attacks targeting that vulnerability. She also published a post about 28,000 GoDaddy accounts that were compromised. So you can find all of these posts on our blog. And then Tim, something that wasn't on our blog, but something that you've been seeing in support tickets lately, seems to be an uptick in phishing campaigns. Can you tell us a little bit about what you saw?
Yeah, and phishing campaigns are kind of like really, you know, as far as being on a customer's computer or something, that's generally kind of something that we're really not concerned with, but that really doesn't affect us as much. But I wanted to bring it up because we've had some cases this week where customers have been the recipient of phishing emails, and they've been security kind of warnings, and they wanted to reach out and just get our opinion on them. One of the emails in question, the customer said the sender had detected on their site, the sender site, that they were being spammed by the customer site, and that they were, before they threatened some sort of legal action or went to the police or whatnot, they decided, even though it was not their job, that's a quote from the email, they were going to compile a report with the results and give some removal information so the person could actually remove the stuff themselves. It was all in this attached file. The second email to a customer was that said somebody that said that they were a photographer and that they had seen the customer's site, and that the customer was using some copyrighted images from the photographer, and the photographer was telling them they had to take it down, and had a list of images, and they were also in an attached folder. So I think you can see where I'm going with this. You know, everybody here is probably security conscious. So I know I don't have to worry about you guys, right? Because you're here, right? You're thinking about security. I don't think I have to tell you, guys, if you are not expecting an attachment, you didn't request an attachment, don't open it. Just delete the email. But the thing is about these emails is there's several things in them that they do to try to trick people into this sense of urgency. Some might threaten like the legal action. Some might like push you to protect your customers because your site is hacked. You know, the point is they want you to react, and they want you to react quickly, and so quick that you don't even really read their email just as so much as do what they tell you to do. You know, in the case where there's attachments to these emails, they're usually going to contain something harmful that can infect your computer, might steal your site logins, your bank logins, stuff like that. Guys, don't be that person. Don't be the person that opens the attachment at all. Even in the panic generating aftermath of receiving something like that, just take a second to stop and look and see if what this person is saying is possible or not. I'm going to give you a quick example before we move on. There's a guy I know, he's a responsible guy, sensible, awesome dad, good friend. He reached out to me because he got an email from somebody who had accessed his webcam, and they said they wanted about $3,200 in Bitcoins to delete the evidence of him doing something he shouldn't have been doing while he was watching something that he shouldn't have been watching. And he was kind of panicked, and not because anything he'd actually watched online, but because the threat was framed like being the imperative that he act now, or his reputation was going to be ruined, all his contacts were going to be spammed with this stuff. And, after about 15 minutes of this guy being really upset, and I really couldn't even get a word in edgewise, and he doesn't know what to do, I got him settled down enough so I could just ask him some questions. And I said, Jason, what kind of webcam do you have? He didn't have a webcam at all. And once he sat down and thought about it, it was like, that's stupid. And in these two customers cases above, the websites that the people said the malware was on, and the website that said that they was using the copyrighted photos, they weren't these customer sites. So the thing is that the moral of the story is that if it sounds like BS, it's probably BS. And it's just a shotgun approach to try to get as many people to be stupid enough to click on a link or to pay some money or whatever. Just delete the email, move on. And that's the best thing that you can do. So that's my spiel about phishing today. Don't bite. Is that right? Is that a good tagline?
Yeah, it's interesting that though they're targeting site owners right now with some of these phishing attacks. So, hacking does happen, but if somebody sends you an email saying that they're hacked your site or that they've got your database or anything like that, definitely investigate before you respond, and don't respond, but the investigation will uncover what's going on. But it's really, like Tim said, just keep a clear head about things. And if there's a sense of urgency, that's something you just have to ignore, right?
And the other thing about it is that you can use it just the same way you would, like if you got an email from Wordfence telling that we blocked some attacks or things like that. You don't have to panic and react. What you can do is just be proactive, and you think, you know what, this is a good reminder for me to log into my site. I'm gonna look and see if I have any scan issues that I need to fix. Do I need to go back and fix some passwords? Should I change my passwords right now? Should I update things or whatever? Use it, turn it around, make it a positive, don't make it a negative, and don't click on the attachment. Never open the attachment.
Yes. And speaking of Wordfence and blocking, let's get started looking at how we can make Wordfence make your WordPress site even more secure using Wordfence and the blocking tools. So Wordfence gives you a number of tools that can block crawlers, attackers, bots. All these tools are really powerful, but you need to be careful using them. If you tighten up security, obviously security is a continuum. So you can have security be too tight, and that would be akin to having your web server encased in cement, buried 6 feet in the ground, and completely unusable. Or you can have it at the other extreme and be wide open where attackers can get in because you're using password 123. So you need to find where on that continuum your site and your security settings needs to be. And it's going to be different for every single site. If you have a site with a lot of users, for example, a commerce site or a LMS, learning management systems site, where you have a lot of users coming in and logging into your WordPress account in order to consume content, or a membership site, your settings are going to be very different than someone who just has a blog and they're the single user. So keep that in mind as we talk through some of these things. You're going to have to make the decisions based on what is best for your site. So today, what we're going to do, we're going to cover live traffic. This is a tool in Wordfence where you can see what's getting blocked and why. We're going to go over all of the blocking options within Wordfence. We're going to talk about rate limiting, how and when you might want to use rate limiting settings, and what to do if and when you get locked out of your site if you have accidentally encased your entire web server in sort of that proverbial cement. So Tim, back to you. You want to show us some live traffic.
I think Tim forgot he might be muted.
Oh, he might be
Sorry about
muted.
that. I was muted. I was typing and I didn't want to hear everybody hear my clacky keyboard. All right. Yeah. It makes a lot of noise. It does.
Does it? Okay.
I enjoy it though. I do like my keyboard. All right. Give me 1 second. I'll start sharing the screen and we'll roll with this sucker. All right. We have a problem. Okay, guys. Can everybody see this right now? Are you seeing my screen?
Yep.
Great. All right, guys, today what I'm going to do is I want to introduce you to one of the many powerful tools in your Wordfence arsenal, and this is called live traffic. Now, the reason we're looking at live traffic is because when you're going to make decisions on what to block, who to block, why to block them, whatever, you really need to know why you're doing these things. And live traffic is a great tool to do that. So we're just going to load up Wordfence real quick and go take a look. You go to the Wordfence menu, click on tools, and then live traffic should be the first thing that shows up. And you can see there I am right there on live traffic. I'm actually going to go ahead and instead share this other screen, which is, oh, I don't know how to do that. Hang on. Sorry about that, guys. Just a momentary lapse of everything. Let's see right here. Since we don't have, this is just a demo site and we don't have a lot of traffic on it, I did want to show you something like an actual live traffic screen that actually showed a little bit more detail of what happens when you're seeing them. And this is one of our test sites that's been out for a while that we know it's got some traffic. So could everybody see this screen?
Yep.
Yep.
This is, okay, this is live traffic right here on a site. You know, we've included live traffic in the plugin probably, it's been a really long time. I can't even think of what the original version was that it came out in, but it's always been a customer favorite. And really, it's kind of an eye opener for people. I can tell you when I first installed Wordfence as a customer that I kind of looked at it and saw the stuff coming in. And to be quite honest, I didn't believe it. I really didn't. I didn't think it could be right that all these login attempts would be happening. All these different things were coming into these sites and getting page not founds and all this other different kind of information, that they were coming in and making these attempts to exploit the site. But I'm here to tell you, it's actually, it's true. When you're at that time, before I had Wordfence and used the live traffic tool, if I wanted to see like security things or see things that were happening, I could tell my access logs or my error logs. And that means just basically watching text scroll across the screen. And quite frankly, it's kind of abstract and it leads you to kind of really not pay as much of attention. With Wordfence's live traffic, it's like actually on your site. And it helps it become real to you. You can see the blocks, you can see the visits in real time, and it really brings it home. Once more, and again, because I've had people say this to me. They've said, you're manufacturing these visits. It's all fake. This is the deal. You can absolutely match this traffic up in your error access logs for the server if you want to verify it. The number of bots and scripts hitting the site, the crawlers, the login attempts, they're all real. And really kind of ignoring that by not having a tool like this is just more or less kind of putting your head in the sand and hoping it'll go away. And it absolutely won't. The cool thing about live traffic is that the filters that our development team added so that you could filter information further, see the data, drill down in the data so you can make your security decisions for your site. You can break it down into humans, crawlers, page not founds, blocks, and blocks by the firewall. I'm going to show you that real quick. Let's see. Over here again. Here's your filters right here, the different things that you can filter out for. And you can see, like I said, you can see things like the blocks, the page not found errors, what's getting blocked by the firewall, what's getting blocked in general, logins, logouts, and things like that. If you really want to drill down further, you can use this right here, which is the advanced filters. And this allows you to search for other things. You can search for like user ID, user agent, the refer, the URL, the response code, and things like that. That really kind of makes it easy for you to like take a look at some of these visits that are coming in and make a more informed choice on whether or not to block something long-term or just to kind of let it go. There's two different modes for live traffic. You have security only, and you have all traffic. Now, we tell you, or if we tell you to leave live traffic in security only mode for most of the time. This is going to include your successful logins, login attempts that were blocked, various kind of blocked hits like firewall and whatnot, rate limiting, country blocking, that sort of thing. Now, when you see it set to all traffic, just by doing something like that, you'll see additional stuff like page views and things like that, you know, different site requests and whatnot. But there's an additional request per visitor, because this helps us distinguish the human traffic versus bot traffic more intelligently. So if you're on like a lower cost plan, like a shared hosting with a really cheap hosting provider who doesn't like to give you a lot of resources, that it's probably best to leave it set for security only. And really, at the end of the day, this falls under the same category as kind of my theory on alerts. You know, with alerts, you only really want to see the things that are actionable for you. You don't really have to see the things where Wordfence is just telling you, "Hey, I'm doing my job." You know, it's what is it? Can't see the tree for the forest. This is the same kind of thing. When you have it set to security only, you're only seeing the things that you really need to take action on, and that's kind of it's important to you know, just be able to see those sorts of things. Something else that Wordfence is also put in here. Let's see if I can pull that back up again. Right there. If you'll notice on this, right here, even in the tool itself, you can actually block the IP from the tool, from the expanded entry. You can run a whois to see what this, you know, who's the IP registered to, you know, and what, you know, information about who, you know, the registered owner and whatnot. And you can also go over here and you can see the recent traffic that's been coming in from this particular IP. So it may be somebody that just mistyped a URL or did something, you know, like that. And that's why they wound up, you know, with these 404 errors, or it may be just somebody that tried to log in. It's somebody that you know that's supposed to log in, and they just mistyped their password a couple of times. Or if you might see it have hit the site like hundreds of times trying to get to certain exploits or whatnot like that. And that just gives you more information and just a better idea of what you need to do, if whether or not you need to block them or not. And so you can make a better intelligent decision on how to protect your site. So that's it for live traffic right there. If anybody has questions, please feel free to put them up in chat and we'll be happy to answer those. Kathy?
Excellent. Yeah, that was great, Tim. This is great because you get live traffic gives you an idea of what's happening on your site, because if you're going to be thinking about blocking traffic, you need to know what's happening. So live traffic is that great tool. And again, just making sure that if you're not looking at live traffic, to keep that in security mode. Very important things there. Thank you for overviewing that, Tim. Now I'm going to take you through some of Wordfence's blocking options and talk about maybe some best practices for blocking traffic. So let's see where, let's go back to this screen here. And is that screen sharing properly? I lost my
Yep,
windows.
looks good.
Does, okay.
I was
muted. So okay, so I've got the live stream on YouTube up. I've got Zoom up. I've got screen upon screen upon screen. So I got kind of lost. Okay, so on the Wordfence dashboard, this is today, and this is attacks happening across the Wordfence network. Now, Wordfence is installed on over 3 million sites worldwide, and we are detecting, you know, sort of an increase in attacks happening right now, like what we talked about at the start of Wordfence office hours a week ago. Our threat intelligence team uncovered an attacker, a malicious attacker that was attacking about 1 million sites And there may be a possibility of something upticking there. We will let you know on the blog. So again, make sure you're subscribed to the blog if you missed that earlier. But let's get looking at blocking. Obviously, Wordfence is two main components, the firewall and the malware scanner and security scanner. The firewall is where the blocking happens. And here on this site, we see a Wordfence Premium protected site. We see the firewall is at 100%. It is optimized. So the Wordfence firewall, when it is optimized, runs before the entirety of WordPress and databases are engaged. You know, there's no reason to get databases involved at that level. So it is running at using something called PHP auto prepend, and that is blocking before you're engaging your entire site. So when it's optimized, that's what happens. And you'll see 100% if you are running premium. Here we also see the real-time IP blacklist, which is one of the great benefits of premium. The real-time blacklist, because Wordfence is installed on 3 million sites worldwide, the chances are we're seeing the attacks that are happening, that are coming towards WordPress. Because of that, we can see those malicious IP addresses. So with that attack that we're starting to see happen this morning, we're seeing those IP addresses, and the real-time blacklist is blocking those attack bots. Probably, you know, it's not like a guy in a hoodie saying, I'm hacking 1 million sites. It's a guy who wrote a bot that says, go attack 1 million sites. We are seeing those IP addresses that are attacking, and the real-time blacklist is not allowing those IP addresses to see those sites. So if you are running a site and you haven't updated, you have a vulnerable plugin, you have bad passwords, those malicious bots that we see attacking are blocked. They can't even see those vulnerabilities. So it adds that layer of protection that keeps your site from engaging with malicious traffic. So let's take a look at the block rules. Here on the firewall page, you can see all of the different ways that blocking is occurring. But if we go into here into blocking, this gives us some blocking rules. Now, a lot of people aren't looking at blocking very often, so it's not set up on the Wordfence navigation. But if you are looking at blocking a lot and say you would like that to show up over there, you can go into blocking options and you can choose to display the blocking menu option over there on the left. So let's go ahead and do that, and we save, and we see that the blocking section is now on our left sidebar. That is just an option if you'd like that to be there. Then we have these different block types: IP address, country, and custom patterns. Now, country blocking is a premium, again, a premium feature. We'll walk through that in a second. IP address, if you're running the free version of Wordfence, you can do this. So say, for example, you are on that live traffic and you're seeing just a ridiculous amount of traffic coming from a certain IP address. Or you have someone that you know is maliciously trying to do something to your blog and you want to block that, you can put that IP address in here. Now, if you're running the real-time blacklist, you don't have to do much because the blacklist is rolling. It is going to watch those malicious IP addresses as they are, you know, cycling through them. You know, a hacker's not just going to be like, here's my IP address for the rest of eternity. They're going to cycle through VPSs. They're going to cycle through bulletproof hosts. They are going to move around. So it is a real-time blacklist that's watching where hackers are going and following them. I'm kind of like a stalker. But here you can do a manual block and put in an IP address here. We force you to put in a block reason because 2 months from now, you'll come back to this page and say, for example, a VPS is assigned an IP address and someone's using that maliciously. You go ahead and manually block that. And 2 months later, now that IP address is being used by a legitimate person and they're blocked and you're not sure why. You want to make sure you understand the reasons why you are making a determination to block an IP address. So that is a required field here. Now, if you're using Wordfence Premium, country blocking is an option. So let's say, for example, that malicious attack is coming from Algeria. We'll just pick on them. And you're seeing tons of traffic coming from Algeria or Ukraine or someplace where you have no customers, you have no legitimate visitors. If you're running your blog and you're English speaking and only English speaking people in English speaking countries are going to be looking at, you can go block those countries. One thing to be considerate about is if you're going to block countries, do so judiciously. Make sure you have an actual reason. Don't just say, well, all my customers are in the United States or all my customers are in Canada. When I was doing site cleanings, we had a customer who, as soon as they got their premium license installed, decided, well, we're Canadian and we only do business in Canada. And so they blocked everything else. Well, they also blocked the IP addresses of PayPal and they blocked the IP addresses of Google. And so all of their transactions were not working and they couldn't figure out why. And so as soon as we, were more judicious and guided them being more judicious with those blockings, they were able to then process those transactions because PayPal could send back, the transaction confirmation to the website and their site was working again. Now, someplace where you can be a little more aggressive with country blocking is blocking the login form. So Wordfence allows you to either block access to the entirety of the site or block just the login form. So if you are in the United States and you just want to block access to the login form so that only people in the United States can get to it, you can do that. But if you take a trip to the UK and something happens with your site, you're blocked. So you have to remember that you have indeed done that. So let's show how, let's say we have a site and we want to just block the login form. And we can pick from a list. This is one way of doing it, or you can just start typing in different countries. Let's say we want to block Albania, and you can build a list of countries that you're blocking here. But the list is kind of a cool way of doing it. Let's say we want to block everyone except, let's go down to the United States and say, we know we're going to take a trip to the United Kingdom. We're going to block everything except that for the login form. So then down here, you will see that rule. So you can see that 248 countries are login only blocked. And let's say, oh, well, we have a really important trip coming up to Japan. Oh my gosh, we don't want to get locked out of our site when we go to Japan. So let's make sure that that is now accessible for our login form. So you can click update block. Now we see 248 countries have the login only blocked. So that's one way of using country blocking, which is extremely helpful. The next way is custom patterns. So you can block IP ranges, you can block host names, user agents. If you're seeing a bot coming through, you can block anything within that bot. You'd see all of this information in live traffic, which would help you inform making these kinds of decisions. You can block based on a refer. Say if you're getting all of these malicious traffic and it's all coming from one link, you just have to be watching what kind of patterns are happening with malicious traffic. And then again, we are forcing you to put in a block reason because 6 months from now, you have a block and you can't remember why the heck you made these types of decisions. You want to make sure that you have a reason there. So again, down here, you will see all of the blocks. You can, if you have a temporary blocks, say, for example, we want to unblock that country, we can do that from here and unblock that. So if you have a rule or a number of rules, you can bulk unblock them here as well. But let's take a look at rate limiting. I think I covered that enough. Did I miss anything, Scott or Tim?
No, that was good. That was good.
Yeah,
okay, good. Excellent. These guys know way more about Wordfence than I do. I'm just along for the ride. So Scott and Tim are the experts. And that's one of the benefits of Premium. Not only do you get that real-time blacklist and you get, country blocking and the real-time threat intelligence so that you're getting malware signatures and firewall rules immediately upon them being released. You get access to premium support, which means you have access to these guys that know the product better than anyone. And they are also quite adept at understanding all of the different hosting providers and the different idiosyncrasies on hosting providers and how to make Wordfence optimal configurations on any site and any hosting provider that's out there. So these guys are amazing. And if you go on wordpress.org and you go look at the Wordfence, go look at Wordfence reviews, what are you going to see? You're going to see, I'd say most of the reviews are going to talk about, you know, they're happy obviously with the product, but they're also going to talk about our customer support engineers and how they go the extra mile. And they're just a joy to work with. And it's really great to have this security team behind you, especially with these kinds of attacks happening. Scott, I jumped into your time.
I like the soapbox. You're too kind. I appreciate it.
Well, you guys are awesome. You really are. So, but why don't you let us know about rate limiting?
Sure. First, I'm going to show you where to find rate limiting in Wordfence with the abundance of options and features we give you. And then we're going to look at and discuss what rate limiting does, what scenarios you may want to use rate limiting. And then we'll take a look at the individual settings. So is the screen share here working?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Okay, so for rate limiting, if you're on your dashboard, you can just hover over Wordfence and go rate to all options. And this is where a majority of our options are at. So in this second section here, under firewall options, you're going to see rate limiting. So rate limiting is connected to some of what we've already seen from Kathy and Tim. So Kathy had mentioned some IP and country blocking, as well as the advanced blocking, which where you can block a range of IPs or via host name or refer. So that all falls under rate limiting and advanced blocking. So by default, that is enabled in this section. And also by default, you will see that rate limiting is sort of not enabled. It's set to unlimited and throttling. So we'll get a little more into that. So what is rate limiting? Rate limiting is the use of roles to limit interaction with your site under certain circumstances. So more specifically, rate limiting would allow you to set a role that if exceeded, a block would occur, whether it be by a human or a bot. By default, what would happen is that the visitor, whether a bot or a human, would be throttled. And when somebody gets throttled on the site, they see the same message that they would see if they were blocked in this case. Throttling is going to be a 1-minute time where they're unable to interact with the website. If you set these to block, it will follow this block roll rate here and block for the amount of time you have set there. By default, this is 5 minutes. So both instances are going to not allow the bot or the visitor to interact with the site. They will see a message that says that the access has been temporarily limited. So one of the main purposes that rate limited can be used for is helping prevent copying and scraping of your site's content. And we have some people that write in about that occasionally. You know, a whole site and all of the content has been copied and put elsewhere. You know, this is a lot of time and work that you're putting into your site and to see it copied. So using these rules can prevent that. Rate limiting can also be set up preventatively to just prevent a large number of hits from hitting the site and interacting with the site and overloading the site. Now, what seems like a large amount of hits might not be as many as we think. Some of our default settings here will be right around 240 per minute. And some friendly crawlers and bots can easily get up around there. So that's something to keep in mind. So let's go over these settings. So we talked about enabling and disabling rate limiting, and by default, this will be turned on. So into these individually. If anyone's request exceeds this value in this first box here, then we will either throttle it or block it. Now, for the most part, I'm going to use throttle for these because this is what I generally recommend, and it will depend on your use case. This first option is a little bit different because this takes into account anyone's requests. And notice this says requests here because it includes both page views to your site as well as 404s, the page is not found. So this is a little bit of a combination of those. So 240 for this is good because some bots, that would be 4 hits per second. Some bots can go through really quick. And this at 240 would be a good general setting there. Now, focusing on crawlers. So a crawler's page view, and you can set this up similarly because with crawlers, bots, maybe a search engine or an uptime monitor bot, you may see a large amount of hits. And 240 for a minute, if they're indexing and browsing the site, that could be exceeded. So if you're going to set this lower, I would keep in mind that you're probably going to want to continue to throttle rather than block. And if you are going to block, try to keep the time a little lower. Now, that said, depending on your use case and depending on how much you've looked into your live traffic, which we covered earlier, you may see some patterns that you can come up with a block in here for, and that would be very useful. So for a crawler, we typically recommend 240 again here as well, and you can throttle that. Now, this is where it's a little different. So this option focuses on crawlers and bots, but it is focusing on pages not found. So 404s on your page. So we see a lot of bots that sort of blindly will hit sites looking for specific files or maybe backups that they can find a file in to make use of credentials. So 404s, you can go a good bit lower on this. I typically recommend 60, but in our documentation, we mentioned that you can go lower at 30 or even 15. And you'll notice that we provide a prompt whenever you go low here, letting you know that some unintentional blocks can occur. So the reason why this setting is different is because 404s on your page can be happening without you knowing in the background. And what can happen there is, say that you have a bunch of little images in the footer of your site on all the pages. They may not be loading. You may not have noticed it, but in your console, you may be seeing that they are coming up as 404s where you otherwise wouldn't have noticed it. And if you set this setting too low, every time a crawler interacts with one of your pages, they may get hit with 4 or 5 or more 404s, depending on how many elements aren't loading correctly on your site. So keep in mind with this one that your site configuration and the health of your site should be taken into account, because if you're loading a lot of things on the site that aren't there, you may run into some unintentional blocks. And if you're running a business, you don't want your visitors interacting with the site and getting a block. And that's another thing to keep in mind with the throttling and the blocking. So a throttle is a perfect thing to use here. It's slowing them down. It's giving them a 503 error. And a lot of times a crawler will stop after that. So if a human's page views exceed this value, and this value we recommend being higher because this one also takes into account AJAX requests. So depending on what plugins, what functionality you're using on your site, you may have more requests. You may think that, okay, I'm just visiting the homepage, or the visitor's just going to the homepage. That's just one view, one request. It can add up a little faster than, but because this is for a human, you want to limit your blocking on humans on your site for the most part. Now, going back to live traffic, if you're seeing certain IPs or a small range of IPs that are continuously hitting the site, you may want to change this a little lower. You may want to block it for a short time. That's just something to take into account. So the human pages not found 404s, this is very similar to the crawler. The same things can happen depending on how the site is configured. When a human visits your site, they may unknowingly be loading 404s in the background. So You want to watch how low you go on this. Your instinct may say go really low because people shouldn't be seeing 404s, but you have to take into account the site's configuration. So what you can do is look at your browser console there and check to see how your site is loading its content. Make sure everything is all right there. So we recommend this to be around 60 or 30, but as it says in the documentation, you could go down as low as 15 safely in general, but you have to take those other things into account. And this is the role here if you set these to block, which will be taken into account. So if I set this to block on 404s at 15, I would be blocked for 5 minutes if I exceed this role. Now, one thing to take into account with this time right here is this also works on a few other features. And what those are is earlier in live traffic, we saw that you can block an IP just by seeing it in live traffic by clicking the block IP button. That will go over to your blocking page with Kathy showed us how to put a little link over here. It's a good page to reference if you're monitoring your site a lot, because that gives you some ideas to set for rate limiting. And also when a role is broken, if an IP is being blocked for a half hour and you go and you look and you see there's a large number of requests in that time, you could then block it permanently and monitor it for a few days to see what you're going to do there. So this option does work in rate limiting, and it also works with that block IP option. And going back to the 404s here in these other two options, we ignore a few 404s by default. And so focusing on the favicon, some browsers will request these files even if they aren't listed in your site's HTML. So that would automatically count as a 404 on a page visit. So that's why we don't include those here. And you have the ability here to add others if you need to. And you can reference the documentation for each one of these settings with the little link at the end or at the top here. And it goes a little more in depth there. So in a nutshell, that's rate limiting. You know, definitely going back to what Tim and Kathy said, keep an eye on your live traffic and your blocking, and then decide there if you would maybe want to make this a little more strict. What this is if you set this up in our recommended settings here, it just adds another layer that doesn't allow your site to get overloaded with requests by a bot or by a human, or snooping around, or maybe your site's getting scanned for a specific file and otherwise it would have unlimited access. Whereas setting these up to just some loose settings will prevent that from happening over a long period of time. So definitely a good thing to keep an eye on. And keep an eye on the live traffic. You can look at the 404s, the pages not found filter there, and see how frequently those are getting visited on your site. And then you can tweak these settings going off of that.
Excellent. Scott, that was amazing. There's a lot there, isn't there? And there's a lot of decisions that you're making, not only with rate limiting, but all of the blocking tools. Wordfence gives you so much. And if you're feeling a little overwhelmed with all of the different ways that you can set up Wordfence to protect your site, and your site has needs that no one else's site necessarily has, WordPress is kind of like a snowflake. Every site is a little bit different, So that's one of the benefits of having Wordfence Premium and Wordfence Premium support, because with your specific site's needs, with your specific site's audience's needs, we can help you because these guys are so well informed with what all of these tools do, obviously, as Scott has shown us. They can really help guide you into settings that are best for your site, and also help you troubleshoot if you do something like lock yourself out. Does that happen, Tim?
That does happen. If you give me 1 second, I was just going to, C-Dog, I was actually just going to get to that question. He asked, what does the standard Wordfence blocking message actually say or look like?
You have a screenshot, don't you?
He totally segued right into my thing right there. Way to go, C-Dog.
Excellent.
I owe you $5 or something, you know, that's awesome. So what if you block yourself? And I mean, you know, how many people here, I mean, if you've blocked yourself out, raise your hand. Cause I mean, I know that I have, it's something that happens every once in a while. Just one of those things. If you're locked out and you're not receiving unlock emails, well, let me show you what you would actually look at first. Let me go ahead and pull that part of it up. Where's my, there it is. I always have to look back for this stupid thing because I can't find it. This is actually the page that you would see if you're blocked. Can you guys see that? Does everybody see that pretty well right there? This is our new blocking page, and you can see it gives you your HTTP status code right there. It'll also give you a way that if you are a WordPress admin on the site, you can email yourself by sending the unlock email. Just so you know, that email actually comes from your server. It's not sent from the Wordfence servers. It's actually sent from your site. If you're having some problems with your email, you know, sending emails like alert emails and things, that may be a problem, but I'll show you just a second a way around that. Dog, you can also see right here in red. Yes, can you hear me?
Tim, I am not seeing, Scott, are you seeing it?
No,
did I not share
it? Did you
totally
select the wrong screen maybe?
Hold on,
Mine
wait a
is
minute.
lagging
I thought
bit, but
wait a second. Oh my gosh, I did. How about that one? Do you see that one?
There you go.
Okay, great. Sorry about that.
There it
is. Okay. Once again, just briefly reiterate there. You'll see right here, here's the response code that people get. You can also see the place right here where you would enter your email if you're a WordPress admin user, and you can unlock it. Again, that email comes from your website. It does not come from ours. So if there's a problem sending email, maybe your hosting provider has disabled that for alert emails. Or something that may not work, and I'll show you a way to get around that. But I think what right here is the important part. Dog, right here, this right here in red, this will tell you what was the actual cause of the block, so that you can go back in and you can kind of look and know what you have to do. For instance, it will, I think the rate limiting, it will tell you like you've exceeded the maximum number of 404s found for a human. I think it'll tell you if you've been blocked by country blocking or something like that. So that's super helpful for you if you have to get somebody back in. If they say, I've been blocked from your site, I need to get back in. If they could send you a screenshot of that blocked page, they can actually see that and understand it. And then it also shows down here the generated time for the page and your computer's time. And that's important because you may have some caching plugin that's doing something that's not, which is like caching the blocked page and actually not letting, you know, showing the same block page to many people. And if that's the case, you really need to fix your caching plugin and tell it not to cache those errors. So what happens if you are locked out and you're not receiving the, and you're not receiving the unlock emails, but you really can't wait for the lockout time to expire, and you really need to get into your site now. There is a way to disable Wordfence without admin access to the site. Ooh, I know it's like a secret or something. Actually, it's pretty cool because this works for any plugin whatsoever. So let's say you're having a plugin problem with plugin A and it's causing an error on the site. You can't get to your site because you've got this error screen up there. If you know the plugin's name, all you guys have to do is you just use FTP or SFTP to access your site. That's usually most hosting providers will provide that. Or if you have like Plesk or cPanel or something similar, you can use the file manager that's inside of that. You want to navigate down to the WP Contents plugins directory. It's where all your plugins are. And you can just rename the Wordfence directory. Just right click on it. I think rename it to wordfence.back, wordfence.old, wordfence.anything. And what that does is it automatically deactivates the plugin. So if, like, let's say that you've forgot your 2FA code or something and you don't have your backup codes because you just didn't download them. Well, that's a way to kind of quickly get back in. And the same is true as if you're blocked. It will allow you to get back in the site. And then to re-enable Wordfence, you just go back in FTP or the file browser and you just right click and you rename rename it back to Wordfence, and then Wordfence is right back where it was. No lost settings, no problems right there. And you can get back in and adjust that setting. Remember, once again, that error code in red, the reason for blocking is really important, because if you send us an email with something and says I've been blocked, or I have customers that have been blocked, if we know that, that takes a whole lot of investigative work right off the table right there. So that's how you get back in if you need to get a Wordfence, or if you need to get around Wordfence, or if you obviously if you have a problem with another plugin, you can do the same thing. Just rename it to .back, and then boom, your access is restored. Does that help, Kathy?
That does. And so if somebody is a premium customer and they need to get a support ticket in, they go to support.wordfence.com. And if you are still using the free plugin, they go to the forums. And how do they get there?
You can get there at wordpress.org and go in and click on plugins. And then I think you just search for Wordfence, and there should be a support link right there. Or you go to, I think that's it right there. And we also, just so you know, we love our free customers as much as we love our premium customers. We are genuinely concerned about everybody's sites. So we actually have paid staff, paid and trained staff that actually work in the forums. Dave's over there a lot. He's my favorite guy in the world. Really smart dude, him and Gerald. Those guys are over there and they're available for help. Again, it's a forum, so your stuff is out there. You obviously don't want to share personal details or things like that.
Right.
If your site's more kind of like something that you need to keep private and you need to keep your support requests private, then Premium's probably a better option, because it's like a support ticketing system and it's more of a one-on-one experience.
Exactly. We had a question earlier about hiding the login form.
Well, it wasn't actually a question. It was just Sea-Dog made a comment about that. And I did want to point out that as being
I might have been talking.
Yeah. So anyway, I did want to say that there's a reason. We've had people ask us about that a lot, about why don't you include that feature into the plugin? Why don't you keep, and we've honestly kicked it around for, geez, Scott, when did we start talking about this? Years and years and years ago. But we landed on a space where we decided we didn't want to do that. And there's 3 reasons that we don't want to do that. And I just like to kind of outline them so people understand why. When you change WordPress URLs, it involves a big risk of breaking functionality of WordPress themes and plugins. For example, like WordPress JavaScript XML HTTP request objects functions, those AJAX functions, are triggered, with the admin-ajax.php, which is located inside the WP admin folder. And the thing is if you change that /WP-admin because you want to change the login URL, if you don't do it right, then you're changing that folder name too. You're not just blocking access to, the login. You're actually blocking access to a lot of those scripts in there and things that WordPress needs to run. The second reason is changing the login URL makes us feel more secure, but it doesn't really actually make your site more secure. It's what a lot of security analysts refer to as like security through obscurity. And to put it like in a more kind of, I don't know, like a layman's terms, make it a little bit easier for you to understand. It's like taking and boarding up the front door of your house to protect yourself against a burglary. So someone looking for a quick score, a quick break-in, they might be deterred. They say, oh, this board's, I don't want to go in there. It's a little bit too difficult to get in. But anybody that's seasoned is going to know what to just go look for another door or look for a window to climb through. Any serious attacker, most of the scripts are going to anticipate this, and they look for other ways to get into. And really, here's the big thing. Half of all login attempts that are made on WordPress sites, they're all made through XML/RPC.php anyway. They're not even going through your login URL. Right. And they're not going to be stopped at all by changing the admin URL. Now, I can say that, we've seen on occasion that it might assist sometimes when people are hitting the WP admin URL to in a DDoS attempt. But again, most of the time, they're not going to hit that. They're going to be going through XML RPC. And we do offer a way to block that in Login Security. And Kathy, we're going to post that link for last week's thing when Scott talked about it, right?
Yes.
In chat. So you guys could watch the end portion of that and see how to actually block logins through XML RPC there too. And the last thing really is that, you know, if you change the WP admin or login URLs, you're going to lose visibility on who's attempting to log into your site and when they're doing it, since we're really, you know, not looking for logins on random URLs that somebody made up. So that's why they do that. What we do offer is what you could do is you could take and do premium and block every country that they're every country at all from logins and just whitelist your own IP address if you wanted to go that route. But we don't do it specifically for that reason. So anyway, there you go.
Excellent. Great. Well, I think we've gotten through our entire agenda. Is there anything else we wanted to cover? Can you guys think of anything?
We covered a lot of settings in there, I think.
Yeah, we did.
That was a good
Tons of
bit.
settings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good bit.
Well, okay. So I've added some things into chat. I'm Wordfence here because I'm also managing all of the YouTube connections and
Because she's the
producing.
marketing person.
I'm the marketing person, so I have to make sure everything bubblegum and toothpicks and all of the Zoom and YouTube connections. But I popped into the chat a couple of things. First of all, some assignments for you to do. One, go sign up for a mailing list. WordPress security is a hopping thing right now. There are new vulnerabilities being discovered all the time. Last week we had a 0-day vulnerability that was actively being attacked. And if that ever happens and we have that threat intelligence, we write a blog post, a PSA to get that out there to the world so that you know what's going on, and we give you actionable items that you can do to protect your site if you're using a plugin that has a 0-day vulnerability. Go sign up for that mailing list. The link is in the chat. Subscribe to our channel here on YouTube, you know, if you haven't done so yet, and hit the bell, all that stuff. Share this with your friends. If you have friends who are using WordPress and they may not be, you know, up on security the way you guys are sort of like the digital army that's out there in order to educate as many people as possible about what's really happening in the field of WordPress security. So we're counting on people like you to get the word out, not just about WordPress security and Wordfence and all of the tools that are available to keep your site secure, but also like what we talked about earlier about the phishing campaigns that are happening, getting the word out to other people about things like that. You know, security is mostly about education, and, you know, we do our part. There's other security firms that do their part, but we need you too. We need you to help educate your friends and your colleagues and make sure that they're up on security as well, so that, you know, the more people that we can inform about the attacks that happen on WordPress and the tools that defend against it, the safer WordPress as a whole is going to be. And one final thing about our Wordfence Premium customers, we just want to thank you guys, because you guys have invested in not just Wordfence the plugin, but Wordfence the team. And all of this threat research that we do, the vulnerabilities that we discover, the plugin authors that we work with in order to make WordPress more secure, you guys are funding that. You guys are making that happen. You guys are making WordPress more secure by making sure that the team that does this research, you know, has the lights on and is able to feed their family, and it makes us able to serve you better. So thank you to the Wordfence Premium customers that are out there. Follow us on Twitter at Wordfence. Tim is TCAN1337. I'm Kathy's aunt, and Scott is WF Scott Miller. So follow us on Twitter. If anything is happening there, we make sure, you know, as soon as a blog post goes out, we share that. If we see other important security news that may not be in the realm of WordPress security, but important that we think you should know, we also tweet about those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Thank you. We're going to be here again next week. So if you've subscribed to our channel, you will get an alert that we will be here again next week with an all new star-studded agenda of things to talk about. What? Are you laughing at me?
I am not laughing. I'm laughing with you.
The star-studded got me there.
Yeah, that was it
Did
pretty
it?
much.
Okay. Well, my adjectives are out of control. Sorry.
You're too kind to us, Kathy.
Hey, shout out.
Okay.
Wait a second. Shout out to Ryan Dewhurst. What's up, Ryan? That guy's
Ryan
awesome.
Dewhurst. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And you need to go find Ryan Dewhurst on Twitter, and you should also sign up for his newsletters. And he's one of the people behind the WordPress vulnerability database. We work with them often and make sure that any vulnerabilities we find go into the database so that other security researchers know that vulnerabilities have been found, proof of concepts that educate not just security researchers of what's happening, but educate plugin developers so that they can write more secure code. So definitely go find Ryan Dewhurst, ethical hacker, but there's 3s in there. So Tim, if you can find Brian's Twitter account, you guys should definitely
already
follow
posted.
him too.
Already posted it. Already got it right there.
Did you?
I totally
Oh my
did.
gosh. That's it.
I'm ahead of the
on
curve.
cue.
That's
on
right,
cue.
man.
You are. Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
And if you
Thank
guys
you,
have
Tim.
any,
Thank you,
and
Scott.
if you have any questions for future episodes, please send them over to feedback@wordfence.com and put Wordfence office hours in the subject line and ask anything you want in there. We'll try to address it in a future episode.
Thanks everybody for stopping by.
Thank you so much.
Scott.
Bye, Ryan. Thanks. Bye, guys. Okay. We'll talk to you later. See you next week.
See you next
Knock
week.
it out.
Bye-bye.
Clock it out.